right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. 412-575-2600 is the number to call. And we have a lot to get into, as always, so make yourself known on the hotline. Call us. You can also tweet at KDPomp, at the Pony Express. Andrew Fillipponi joins us right now over at 93.7 The Fan, and the Pirates got a much-needed win. Mitch Keller went 8 strong innings, made a little statement back to the National League that he thought he deserved to be on this All-Star team. How about 10 wins at this juncture of the season with a 3.40 ERA? In most years, that'd be good enough to get you in, but I firmly believe that Paul Skenes and his elevation so quickly really hampered Keller in his bid.
Well, they have to take a representative from every team, Bob, and the Pirates benefited from that back in the day when they would send guys like Pat Mears or Ed Sprague to the All-Star game,
Neil
or
Heaton.
Evan Meek, Neil Heaton, you name it. They'd get their one honorary guy, one representative, and so that happens. And so that shrinks the amount of guys. They don't take the most worthy. They take 2. They take 1 from every team. They also take guys based on who the manager likes, because he has picks, guys with their cachet, their star power. Mitch Keller doesn't have a lot of that. So I think he's had a very good year. He's lived up to his contract. I honestly have zero problem with him not being on the All-Star game, on the All-Star team. 100 out of 100 times, I'd rather watch Paul Skenes go up against the best hitters in the world.
They have this game here tonight. They have 3 in Milwaukee, and then the White Sox. And you said 6-1 out of 7. I think the more I think about it, 5-2, 6-1 almost has to happen. And if it does, what do you think happens as we get closer to the trade deadline? Because they're still in this thing at this point, although they're not in the best of positions.
I think they're going to search for guys with multiple years on their contracts who aren't making a lot of money. So J.J. Bleday, who's a center fielder for the A's, would be one of those guys. I think those are the types of players they'll try to acquire, and if they can't, then they'll do probably nothing but stand pat at the deadline. I don't see them going for expensive rentals. I'm not even sure they would do the discount rentals, given how in demand those guys might be, given how many teams are still alive in the playoff race. Their price is going to go up. I don't think the Pirates will meet that asking price. So I've set the bar very low for the trade deadline, Bob. I think what we see is what we get. They're going to hope for internal improvements, guys to get called up from AAA, maybe Ashcraft, Henry Davis at some point, and that's how they're going to want to do it. I don't see a big move coming for this Pirates team, even if they do rip off 6-7 here before the break.
Yeah, because the reality after the break, they got some of their best teams are going to be playing, like Philadelphia.
I mean, do you disagree with me?
LA.
Call me out, Bob. Say, Pony, you're out of your mind. Do you agree with me on that? They're going to stand pat, I think.
I think they'll make some sort of move, but it'll be considered minor. I don't think it'll be the kind of move that I think Pittsburgh fans want to see, and quite frankly, I would have preferred it about a month ago. That's the way I looked at this. And so the way it goes, unless they put on a big surge here, and they haven't won more than how many? 3 games in a row all season long? So what makes you think they can? And I think that's the situation they find themselves. We're due for a break here. We'll take it, come back with your phone calls at 412-575-2600. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're live on KDKA Plus and 93.7 The Fan. GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from Alex Stump, and this is interesting because it's the longest streak of starts that go 5+ innings in Pirates history, and all of a sudden Mitch Keller is tied for second with A.J. Burnett at 49. He's been very consistent, there's no doubt about that, starting last season. A little ups and downs along the way, but overall he was viewed once as an ace, and I think he's much more comfortable in this role now that he's sort of the third guy. So, Andrew, I think that all works well for them in the future with those 3 coming back. But I think if you're a Pittsburgh Pirate fan, you have to think it's time for Ben Cherington to put up the results. This would be year 6 next year. If they're back with the same group in place, no more excuses. They got to get into a playoff situation minimum next year if they don't make it this year. I'm not ruling that out this year, but it's going to take a lot of hitting from people that haven't relied on hitting so far this season. They haven't gotten much from other guys named Reynolds or Cruz, pretty much. That's it. They need people to step up, specifically Sawinski and Davis and Hayes, and you go right down the list.
Well, I hope that hamstring thing with Cruz really was just precautionary, and it's not like Falter or Jones where a guy leaves a game and they try to make it seem like it's no big deal only to find out that both players go on the injured list. And with Jones, it looks like he's going to be out at least a month. They can't afford an O'Neal Cruz injury. Okay, we know what he went through last year with the ankle that pretty much devastated their season right from the very beginning last April. Even though he's been at times inconsistent and he hasn't put up monster numbers and he's not an all-star, O'Neal Cruz is still one of their best hitters, and he absolutely kills fastballs, and we saw that happen in today's game. So, yeah, they need more offense. They need Key Brian Hayes to have a second-half surge like he did last year. Jack Sawinski to get it going. He had a great first half last season. Maybe this year it's flipped around where his bat gets hot in the second half, and they need some offensive production from the catcher position. They've gotten next to nothing. Bart has been good at times, but he's also been injured, and Grandal, outside of that game Friday night against the Mets, has done basically nothing in that role. So, yeah, the offense has got to tick up because starting pitchers going down and their bullpen, Bob, without Bednar, has also had a tendency to not come through.
Yeah, and if ever there was a time for Trevor Bauer, he's made himself available to every team, and nobody's taken a shot at him, and I don't understand why the Pirates don't. We talked about that last night. I would totally understand if they did. Everything apparently is in his past now. That's been, over and done with, so give the guy a chance, but so far has not happened. And I wonder why. He's a good pitcher, and he's putting up big numbers. I know it's a Mexican league, Andrew, but why wouldn't you take a shot at him if you had an opportunity?
Well, he's not a very likable guy. He rubs people the wrong way, and this was even before the off-the-field allegations came about. He's someone that marches to the beat of his own drum. And so many of these teams now want guys to follow their rules, go through their hitting plans or pitching plans, get ready for starts a certain way, attack hitters a certain way, follow the instructions that come from the pitching coach or the organization. And Bauer's just not one of those guys. He never has been. He's always had unorthodox training methods. He is a different dude. And I think that this was, for him, just what teams needed to basically boot him out of baseball and not take his crap anymore. I was told he's not the type of person, Bob, if he disagrees with something, a pitching philosophy, an organizational philosophy, he lets everybody know about it. He doesn't zip his lips. He's extremely outspoken. And I just don't think now maybe teams look at it like it was worth it before when he was pitching like a Cy Young. Now that he's gotten himself into trouble, we don't need to put up with it anymore. So maybe that has a lot to do with the fact that he's pitching down in Mexico and not in the big leagues right now.
Our number one Cochrane caller of the night joins us tonight, Rich in the Meadowlands. You'll be first up tonight on the hotline. How are you, Rich?
Hi. How you guys doing?
We're good, thank you.
Hi, Rich.
Howdy. Hey, I got a question about what do you think they're not going to keep Chapman in the closer position? I mean, the ninth inning, they're not going to. Do you think they're going to keep doing that, keeping him as?
Well, it's either he or Holderman. I mean, who else do you got? Unless you want to try Kyle Nicholas. He has a very good arm, but he's been a little bit wild himself. I don't know that I could afford to put Chapman in situations, or if I do, like yesterday, I might have to, pull him at some point a lot earlier than what Derek Shelton did. He's just been wild all season. Unless that comes under control, that's a problem. And I don't know if you can have him in there if that's going to be. Walks are killers, especially when you have a lead and a team needs base runners.
Yeah, and we've seen it when guys have moved up the totem pole, they haven't gotten the results. Holderman goes from the 7th to the 8th, Chapman from the 8th to the 9th, and they've struggled. It makes no sense with Chapman because he was an elite closer for so long. There's a reason why he's got more strikeouts as a reliever than any left-handed pitcher in baseball history, because of what he did in Cincinnati and the Cubs and the Yankees and all those teams, being a guy that would lock down the 9th inning. Now it seems like the moment is getting to him. I don't know if it's what it is, but his control is even worse in the 9th inning, and it was not great in the 8th inning. So to your point, though, Bob, not a lot of good alternatives because Holderman has struggled the last month. I believe last 15 days his ERA is close to 6.
Yep, absolutely. Matt in Butler joins us right now on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, guys. Hey, 2 weeks ago, or a week and a half ago, Ben Cherington said our solutions for the second half are coming from within. I don't see how, and I don't see who. That's why I think they have no shot at the playoffs, because I agree with you. They're not going to make any trade noise. and they're not that close. They need way too many bats in the lineup, and now with the pitching staff injured, there's no chance at the playoffs. They're gonna come from within, which is not a solution.
Well, within means people on their roster or people in the minors. There's not many guys in the minors right now who deserve a chance to come up here and you would expect to produce. So internally means Hayes, it means Sawinski, it means Davis, it means guys like that. Whoever has not delivered, and you can take that to Connor Joe, you can take that to Edward Olivares. There's so many. This offseason has not produced the kind of results they were looking for given how much money they spent.
Yeah, they spent $30+ million, which is not a lot, but the people they selected and the people they chose to spend the money on have done practically zilch. Rowdy Tellez, thank goodness for him, the last month and a half, he's the one guy that now seems to be worth the money. Everybody else, Chapman overpaid. Perez has been injured and since April has been ineffective. Michael A. Taylor can't hit, hasn't even been, in my opinion, a great fielder like he was advertised. Grandal, under 200. Marco Gonzalez, been injured the whole time. Olivares, to me, is a 4th or 5th outfielder at best. So I agree. I mean, find a better way to spend that $30+ million. Instead of finding 6 or 7 guys, spend that on 2 or 3. Find better quality. They've not done that. Ben Cherington has done such a terrible job of procuring hitting talent. I give him very good marks, actually, on pitching. I think he's done a tremendous job with pitching. But the hitting has just been so awful that they negate each other. And when that happens, you're left with a guy who I believe has done a very average job as GM since he took over.
They have an interesting situation with Paul Skenes. Maybe not now, but eventually they will. He strikes me as a guy who says, bet on me, I'll do what I have to do. I'm going to bet on myself, meaning he would not maybe look at an offer that the Pirates might be willing to give him to take over 4 or 5 years down the road. Do you get the feeling that's how he would handle it, or his agent, that he's going to want money, but he's going to want big money eventually. And if the Pirates are willing to do something right now, like a lot of teams have done, by signing guys who are in their first year or even before they ever get here, because it's guaranteed money, what do you think he'd do?
Well, there'd be no reason for him to take a deal right now. Why does he need security? He's had no history of arm problems. He's been healthy as a horse.
That could change.
He doesn't have the
that can certainly
well,
change.
sure.
If someone offered you 4 years, $100 million right now, would you not take it if you're young? Andrew McCutchen did. Andrew McCutchen did when he got the $51 million, and a lot of people thought that was a bargain for the team, which it was. But he,
with all due respect to Andrew McCutchen, he's one of the great Pirates. Paul Skenes is projecting as one of the great pitchers of all time.
I agree.
And so I would not give up a free agent year under any condition or circumstance unless the Pirates are willing to make that year.
What would it look like?
Close to some.
What would the offer look like if they were going to make a legitimate one that would get him to at least consider it?
Well, I think you'd have to do it in a way where you were paying him more than he would make in arbitration per year, which I have a hard time believing the Pirates would do.
Right.
And
maybe
then
a moot point. I'm just throwing it out there as some fodder
Bob,
here.
This guy is, in my opinion, when he gets to free agency, with the way inflation works and the way the economics of sports continue to go up, he's going to be a $50 million a year pitcher, maybe even more by that point. So I would not leave any of that money. He might get $500 million in free agency, $500 million. That's not out of the question with how he's looked so far. He's going to be the most. If Garrett Cole can get $35 million a year, why can't Skenes 8 or 9 years later get 50? He's going to be the most sought-after pitching commodity of all time if this keeps up.
If it keeps up.
And people say that's hyperbole. There's been no hyperbole with him. Everything, he's blown away even the sky-high expectations that people have had for him so far.
But there are things that can change, and injury could be one of them. I'm just saying, if you are offered guaranteed money and they're guaranteed even with an injury, some guys would chirp up for that. Real quick, let's go to Brad and Bethel before we go to break. Hey, Brad, make it quick, please.
Hopefully I can get a few points in here. A lot of ifs on this ball club. I can't take this team serious when Connor Joe's batting cleanup. And as well as Paul Skenes, 4 years, $100 million, he'd be idiotic. I mean, idiotic to accept that offer.
All right, well, I'm throwing out because a lot of teams have done it, and we can continue that thought. I don't know what it would take, but there are some guys who would take it just to get the guaranteed money before they ever got to a free. He's young enough where he's going to get a second contract, and it could be bigger than this one. We got to take a break.
I think Jones is a different story. I think Jones might take that deal, Bob, and he probably should.
I would. Why wouldn't he? I mean, he still can be big time, but those kinds of dollars don't make themselves available too much if the Pirates are willing to play that game. Right now, we are going to take a break. Coming back, we'll try to squeeze in more calls here. I see Josiah and Brad on the phone. We'll try to get your calls coming up. It's 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Ken Rice, what's going on tonight at 11 on KDKA News?
Hey, Bob. Tonight we'll be telling you about the new effort Pittsburgh police are launching to make downtown safer. Plus, a local man arrested for attacking his boyfriend with a hatchet. And First Alert meteorologist Kristen Emery tracking even more heat tomorrow. All coming up at 11, Bob. See you in a few.
All right. Ken, thanks very much. Cam Sutton gets an 8-game suspension. Andrew, this is not something that is a surprise. You knew it was coming based on their code of conduct. If you're going to look at the bright side of this, when he's available to play, it's going to be after week 10 because they have a bye on week 9, which means he'll have all the division games ahead of him, including Kansas City and Philadelphia. So the hardest part of the schedule will lie ahead, and he'll be a healthy body.
Yeah, he better not play like he did in Detroit last year. He gave up 8 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards, and the opponent passer rating against was 122, Bob. He turned opposing quarterbacks into Patrick Mahomes. All
right, Pony, thanks very much. We'll see you again tomorrow night. And
see you, Bob.
That'll do it for our program tonight. Remember to call 412-575-2600. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call 7 nights a week right here on KDKA+. We'll see you tomorrow night. Good night.